Nate was a repair engineer working on a forgotten base at the edge of the galaxy. His job was simple fix things, report them, and stay out of trouble. The planet he was stationed on was dry, full of rocks and strange old ruins no one cared about anymore. It was supposed to be quiet, but one boring afternoon, while digging through some old storage units near the ruins, he found a strange box buried under old tools. Inside it was a dusty silver cup with markings that glowed faintly. It looked older than anything he had seen before. Curious, Nate picked it up, turned it over, and squinted at the carvings. None of it made sense. It didn't look like any alien language he knew. He sighed and muttered, "What kind of useless junk is this?" Then, just for fun, he shook it and added with a smirk, "What are you, some kind of space teacup?" The cup glowed. Bright light flashed around him, and the ground shook beneath his feet. Before he could drop the cup, everything went dark. When Nate opened his eyes, he wasn't in the storage room anymore. He was in a giant stone hall with glowing walls and sharp pillars. Strange banners with alien symbols hung from the ceiling. In front of him stood a tall alien woman in dark armor. Her skin was a smooth silver blue, her eyes glowing gold, and her voice was like thunder wrapped in calm. "You have spoken the words," she said. Nate blinked. "What words? I just wait. Where am I? You swore at the sacred binding cup. Now the soul vow is complete," she said. "I am Queen Zelena of the Broken Crown, and you are mine." Nate stood up slowly, confused and nervous. "Hold on. I think there's a mistake. I didn't swear to anything. I just got annoyed." Zelena narrowed her eyes. "The cup hears truth, not intent. It binds the soul it finds worthy. By calling it, you have accepted the vow of blood unity." Nate stepped back. He felt something pull at his chest. Glowing bands of soft light connected him to the Queen's armor. He tugged, but the bond didn't break. It felt like something was tying his heart to hers. "Not painful, just heavy. This has to be a dream," he said. "It is not," she replied. "You belong to me now, and to them from behind." A group of small children peeked out. They had different colors of skin and eyes, but all wore the same cloth symbol on their shoulders. Nate looked at them, and one tiny girl stepped forward, holding a toy sword. "Are you really our new dad?" she asked softly. "What? No, I mean, what?" Nate looked at Zelena in panic. She raised a brow. "The vow is for the crown and the future. These are my kin's children. The bond has chosen you to stand with them, fight for them, protect them." Nate sat down. "All this because I insulted a cup." Zelena looked at him calmly. "Words have power. The old magic sleeps until it is awakened, and you, human, woke it." He spent the next hour trying to understand what was happening. Zelena told him the cup had been used for ages to bind allies in times of war. Anyone who insulted it while touching it would be seen as challenging. Fate always answered. He asked to be sent home. Zelena said the bond could not be broken unless he died or fulfilled the vow, and she had no plans to let him die. Nate was taken to a stone room in her fortress. 2 guards watched him, and the same glowing thread tied him to the Queen, stretching even across the walls. He couldn't walk far before being pulled back like a leash. He tried cutting it. It reformed. He tried hiding. It tightened. Escape seemed impossible. But the strangest thing was the children. They brought him food. They asked him questions about Earth. One gave him a drawing him, the Queen, and all of them holding hands. Nate didn't know what to say. He had no kids, no partner, no real family, just tools and wires. That night, he sat near the window, watching the twin moons rise over the fortress. He could see the distant lights of enemy fires on the border. Zelena's world was not safe. It was hard, cold, and full of danger. And yet, something inside him whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was not a mistake. Maybe the magic cup hadn't cursed him. Maybe it had chosen him. The next morning, Nate woke up to the sound of metal boots outside his room. 2 alien guards opened the door without knocking. One of them nodded. "The Queen calls for you." Nate yawned, still hoping this was all just a dream. He rubbed his face and stood. the glowing bond from his chest to the queen's throne still. Tugged gently, it hadn't faded overnight. He followed the guards down stone halls until they reached a wide training ground. There, Queen Zelena stood with a long staff in her hand, facing a row of young warriors. Some were barely older than children, others looked like teenagers from different alien races. Behind them, the younger orphans played under the watch of older caretakers. Nate stepped closer, unsure what he was supposed to do. Zelena didn't look at him right away. She barked commands in her native tongue, then turned to him. "If you are to stay here, you must learn," she said. "You cannot be weak. I fix things. I don't fight." Nate replied, "Now you fix hearts," she said, "and maybe one day you will fight beside us." He didn't argue. What was the point? He watched the kids swing wooden swords, fall, and laugh. They weren't soldiers, not yet, but they were learning. Nate spent the day watching them. One child, a boy with silver skin and forearms, kept glancing at him. After some time, he walked over and offered Nate a small wooden blade. Nate blinked. "Train with me?" the boy asked. Nate looked at Zelena. She nodded. Sighing, Nate took the fake sword. He stood clumsily, holding it like a baseball bat. The boy attacked not too fast, but with surprising skill. Nate stepped back, nearly tripping over a rock. He blocked one swing, then two, but the third made him drop the sword. The boy laughed and picked it up for him. "You'll get better." "Dad," he said. Nate froze. "Don't call me that." The boy just smiled. "You're already here. And you care." Nate didn't answer. He looked at the queen. She had heard the word but didn't correct the child either. Later that night, Nate sat near a fire with a few of the kids. They asked questions about Earth. What did human kids eat? How did they sleep? What was a dog? Nate did his best to explain, drawing silly shapes in the dirt and making them laugh. He found it strange how natural it felt. Elena joined them quietly. She didn't sit, but she stood near the fire, arms crossed. She watched the children with careful eyes. When one of them yawned, she said gently, "Time to sleep, little blades." They all ran to their sleeping areas. The queen turned to Nate. "You did well," she said. "I didn't do anything," Nate replied. "You stayed." She said, "That is more than most." Nate looked at her. "They've lost their families, haven't they?" Zelena nodded. "Many of them are sons and daughters of warriors who served me. Some were caught in the crossfire of war. I protect them, and now you do too." Nate felt something heavy in his chest, not pain, just weight. He wasn't a father. He wasn't even close. But the way they looked at him, like he mattered. "So what exactly is this bond doing?" he asked. She pointed to the thread of light still tied between them. "It links our spirits. Pain shared, strength shared, choices shared. If you grow stronger, I do too. If you fall, I feel it. That's comforting," he said with a dry laugh. Elena stepped closer. "You don't have to become a warrior, but you must become something stronger than you were." He nodded slowly. The days passed. Nate started helping around the fortress. He wasn't trained in combat, but he knew machines. He repaired broken lights. He fixed water pipes. He even built a small wine-powered fan for the kids' room. The queen noticed. The children cheered. One of the younger girls, small and quiet, followed him everywhere. She wouldn't speak much but held his hand. One day, she tugged his sleeve and whispered, "Dad, can we have a bedtime story?" Nate froze again. He sat down with the kids and told a simple story about a human boy who got lost in space and made friends with stars. They listened, eyes wide. That night, Nate sat alone under the stars, staring at the glowing bond between him and the queen's chamber. He couldn't believe how far from home he was. Yet somehow, he didn't feel lost. Maybe, just maybe, this was where he was meant to be. Nate woke early, hearing loud horns echoing through the stone halls. He rushed out of his room, heart racing. The children were already gathered in the central hall, looking nervous. Queen Zelena stood by the main gate, fully armored and silent. The glowing bond between her and Nate pulsed quickly, like it felt danger too. "What's happening?" Nate asked. Elena didn't look at him right away. Her eyes were fixed on the horizon. Enemy scouts crossed the border last night. A full attack may come soon. Nate's stomach tightened. What do they want? She turned to him. You. Nate froze. The bond has awakened ancient magic, Zelina explained. The rival clans believe if they capture you, they can use the power to break my kingdom. They want the cup, and they want the human tied to it. Nate looked down at the thread of light between them. So it's not just a connection. It's a weapon. Zelina nodded. A rare one. And they will not stop until they have it. The queen called her soldiers together. Her voice rang strong through the halls. Nate couldn't understand all the alien words, but he knew she was preparing for war. The children were taken deeper into the fortress. Nate stayed behind, helping however he could. He wasn't a warrior, but he was good with machines. He built traps near the gate. He rewired a few defense turrets that had been broken for years. Some of the alien guards looked surprised. Maybe they didn't expect much from a human. But Zelina gave him a nod of approval. As the sun set, shadows appeared across the valley. Enemy ships landed beyond the hills. Their banners rose high, red with sharp black lines. It had begun. The fortress shook as energy blasts hit the outer walls. Zelina led her fighters out, charging on armored beasts. Nate stayed behind with the children and a few guards, but the bond between him and Zelina kept growing brighter. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He gasped and dropped to one knee. Queen Zelina has been hurt, a guard shouted. Nate felt it too. It wasn't just fear, it was real pain. But then something strange happened. The light from the bond wrapped around him like armor. It lifted him slightly off the ground, and he felt energy pulsing through his body. His hands sparked. Near the fortress walls, a group of enemy soldiers had broken through. The guards tried to fight, but they were outnumbered. Nate didn't think he just moved. He ran toward the broken gate, the magic still glowing around him. A wave of energy burst from his chest, knocking the enemy back. One tried to strike him, but the bond shielded him. He picked up a fallen guard's staff and hit back, clumsy but strong. The children watched from behind, wide-eyed. Dads. Glowing. One whispered. Nate didn't hear them. He just focused on keeping them safe. More enemy troops rushed in. Nate looked at the broken defense turret nearby. He ran to it, pulled open the panel, and began rewiring with shaking fingers. Come on. Just like old machines back on Earth. The turret came to life. It locked onto targets and fired, clearing a path. The remaining guards joined him, pushing the enemy back. The fortress held. By the time the queen returned, her armor cracked, but her spirit strong. The enemies were gone. Her fighters cheered. She looked at Nate with surprise but not fear. You fought, she said. I protected, he replied, out of breath. I didn't want them hurting the kids. Zelina walked up to him. The bond between them glowed warmly now, steady like a heartbeat. You felt my pain, she said softly. Double quotes. Yeah. Nate nodded. It was terrible, but it gave me strength. Too. She studied him for a long moment. The bond is changing, growing. It has chosen well. That night, while the others repaired damage and cleaned up, Nate sat near the fire again. One by one, the children came and sat around him. The small girl who once held his hand now rested her head on his arm. You really are our dad now, she whispered. Nate smiled faintly. I guess I'm starting to believe that too. Above them, the stars shone quietly. And for the first time since the cup chose him, Nate didn't feel cursed. He felt needed. After the battle, the fortress was quiet. The children helped clean the halls while the older soldiers repaired weapons and walls. Nate worked with them, fixing pipes and lights, trying to keep his mind busy. But his thoughts kept returning to the strange power that had awakened inside him. It wasn't just the bond, it was something deeper. Queen Zelina watched him from the high balcony. Her eyes followed him as he helped a boy with a broken toy. The boy had drawn a small human face on it and called it Little Nate. The queen smiled slightly but said nothing. Later that evening, Zelina asked Nate to walk with her along the edge of the fortress wall. The night wind was cool, and moons hung above them. You're not the same man who arrived here, she said. I still feel like that same guy, Nate replied, just with a lot more bruises. She looked at him. You've earned their trust, and mine. Nate looked out toward the hills. I didn't plan for any of this. I just swore at a cup. You may not have planned it, Zelina said. But the magic does not choose by mistake. He didn't answer. He thought of the kids, their smiles, and the fear in their eyes during the attack. He remembered how it felt to protect them. How the bond gave him strength, not just magic, but purpose. Suddenly, a loud cry came from the lower hall. A guard shouted for help. Nate and Zelina ran down the steps and into the children's room. One of the smaller girls lay on the floor, shaking. Her skin had turned pale, and strange marks glowed along her arms. What's happening? Nate asked, kneeling beside her. Poison, Zelina said. Kneeling as well. Someone must have slipped it into her food during the battle. Slow acting, cruel. The girl's breathing was shallow. The other children gathered close, afraid. Nate's hands shook. What do we do? There's a cure, Zelina said. But it grows in the Blackstone Valley. It will take a full day to reach. She doesn't have that long. Nate stood up. Then I'm going. It's dangerous, she warned. I've been through worse, he said, and I'm not letting her die. Zelina looked into his eyes, then nodded. Take the swift glider. It's faster than walking. But beware, the valley is not empty. Nate raced out. The glider was small, shaped like a bird, and hovered close to the ground. He had never flown alien tech before, but he figured it out. Fast, he followed the path shown on a glowing map, through hills and narrow canyons. The Blackstone Valley was dark and filled with strange sounds. Shadows moved among the trees, and glowing eyes watched him from the rocks. He found the plant a dark purple flower with silver veins, but as he reached for it, he heard a growl behind him. A beast stepped out tall, with 6 legs and long teeth. Nate froze. Then remembered the bond. He closed his eyes and focused. The light wrapped around his hands like before. He raised them, and a soft wave of energy pushed the beast back. Not far, but enough. He grabbed the flower, jumped into the glider, and sped back to the fortress. When he returned, the girl was barely breathing. Zelina crushed the flower into a drink and gave it to her. The glow on her skin faded, and her chest rose slowly. She was safe. The children cheered. Some cried. One boy hugged Nate tightly and whispered, "Thank you for saving our sister." Zelina stepped forward. You faced the valley alone. For her, I had to, Nate said. She's one of mine now. Zelina placed a hand on his shoulder. You speak as a father. Nate didn't deny it. That night, he sat by the fire again. The little girl who had almost died held his hand as she slept. The other kids stayed close, drawing pictures and placing stones around the fire. Elena stood nearby, arms crossed. You did what few would dare. I just did what was right, Nate replied. She nodded. And that is why the bond chose you? Nate looked at the children. They've given me something I didn't know I needed. Family, Zelina said. He nodded slowly. Yeah, family. Days passed, and the fortress slowly returned to normal. The children played again. The soldiers trained in the yard. And Nate kept busy fixing broken things, water filters, heating stones, and even a small music device. That made the kids laugh with strange sounds. Queen Zelina watched all of it silently, her presence strong but quiet. But peace didn't last long. One morning, a skyship arrived. It hovered over the fortress, smooth and white, with earth markings on its side. Nate stepped outside, his heart racing. It was a human diplomatic vessel, the kind sent to pick up people who had been lost or, in his case, bonded by accident. A voice crackled through a speaker. This is Captain Aaron McKenzie of the U.S. Outer Peace Division. We are here to recover engineer Nathan Cole, human citizen of Earth. Nate looked at Zelina. Her face was calm, but her eyes were distant. Do you want to go back? She asked. Quietly. Nate didn't answer right away. He looked behind him. The kids were watching from the doorway, confused and scared. They didn't understand what the ship meant, but they knew it might take him away. I don't know, he finally said. The captain came down with 2 officers and a translator. She was kind, but firm. We've been tracking strange energy spikes from this planet. Then we found records of your name linked to an ancient alien bonding ritual. By human law, you were taken without consent. We can bring you back." Nate crossed his arms. "I wasn't exactly kidnapped, but the bond can't be legal," she said. "You're tied to someone, to a place. You can't move freely." "Maybe I don't want to move," Nate said. The captain looked surprised. "You want to stay here." Zelina spoke then. "The bond cannot be broken without great pain. And the children, they have accepted him as their own." The captain sighed. "We have orders, but we won't force you. If you choose to return to Earth, we'll take you. If you stay, we'll mark you as willingly lost. It means you won't get another chance." Nate asked for time to think. He walked along the wall, staring at the skyship, then at the fortress below. The kids waited for him near the kitchen hall. The smallest one ran up to him. "Are you leaving?" she asked softly. He knelt down. "They want me too. But do you want to?" Nate looked at her. She held his finger like it was the strongest rope in the galaxy. "I don't know what I want," he admitted. The other kids came over. One handed him a drawing. It showed Nate, Zelina, and the children standing together under the stars. A big smile was drawn on his face. The child had written Dad in big crooked letters. Nate felt something shift inside. He went back to Zelina. "When I came here, I thought this was a mistake. I thought the cup ruined my life. But now, I think it saved it." She said nothing. "Tell them I'm not going," Nate said. The captain didn't argue. She only nodded. "Then goodbye, Nate. You've made your choice." The skyship left. Rising into the clouds, the kids cheered when it was gone. They ran to Nate, hugging him tightly. He laughed and held them all, even the shy ones. Later that night, Zelina called him to the council chamber. The fortress leaders stood in a circle. "Old warriors, scholars, and caretakers, you refused the call of your world," Zelina said. "I did." Nate replied, "Then we must give you a place in ours." She stepped forward and placed a small metal piece in his hand, a family sigil, her royal crest. "You are now a part of my house," she said. "A father to the children, a shield to the weak, a partner in this kingdom." Nate looked at the crest. It was shaped like the same cup that had brought him here, but now it felt like a gift, not a curse. He looked at the council. "I accept." And with that, Nate Cole, former repair engineer, became something else, something stronger. Not a warrior, not a king, a father. The night was quiet, but the magic cup glowed softly on the wooden table in Nate's room. He stared at it, thinking about the journey that had brought him here. From a bored engineer to a father, protector, and part of an alien kingdom. The cup had never been a curse. It was a choice. A chance. Nate stood and walked to the window. Outside, the orphans played under the twin moons. Their laughter filled the air like music. Queen Zelina stood nearby, watching them with a gentle smile. Nate knew he was part of something bigger now. The next morning, the queen called Nate to the throne room. The council gathered, their faces serious but respectful. The leaders of the kingdom wanted to honor Nate for his bravery and loyalty. Alina stepped forward, holding a new symbol, a pendant shaped like the magic cup, but shining with bright light. "This pendant," she said, "is a sign of true bond. Not just magic, but family and trust." "Nate Cole, you have earned it." Nate accepted the pendant. He felt its warmth in his hand. The council bowed. "You are no longer just a visitor," Zelina said. "You are a guardian of our people, a father to the children, and my partner." Nate looked at the queen. "I never asked for this, but I don't want to go back. This is home." She smiled softly. "Then let us build a future together." The days after the ceremony were filled with joy and work. Nate helped rebuild homes damaged in the war. He taught the children new games from Earth and listened to their stories. Zelina led the kingdom with strength and kindness, supported by Nate's steady hand. One evening, as they sat watching the stars, Nate asked, "Do you think the cup will glow again?" Zelina laughed. "Only when it is time for a new path. For now, it sleeps." Nate smiled. "I'm ready for whatever comes." The children gathered around them, their faces bright with hope. One small girl tugged Nate's sleeve. "Dad," she said. "Thank you for choosing us." Nate hugged her close. "Thank you for choosing me." The magic cup rested between them, silent but alive, a reminder that sometimes a simple moment can change a life forever. And Nate's life had changed beyond anything he ever imagined, from swearing at a strange cup to becoming a father to an alien queen's children. He had found a family, a home, and a purpose. And in the vast stars, that was the greatest magic of all. After Nate accepted the family sigil, life in the fortress changed. Again, the children smiled brighter, and the soldiers treated Nate differently, not just as a visitor, but as one of them. Even Queen Zelina's gaze softened when she saw him. Nate learned more about the bond. Each day, it was not just magic it connected their souls. When one felt pain, the other did too. When one grew stronger, they both did. It was a heavy responsibility. One morning, while training in the yard, Nate noticed Zelina watching him closely. She approached. "Your strength grows," she said, "but so does the danger." "What danger?" Nate asked. She lowered her voice. "The enemy clans are gathering. They believe if they take you, they will control the magic and with it, the kingdom." Nate clenched his fists. "Then we stop them." Zelina nodded. "But this battle will be unlike any before. It will test the bond, and us." Nate spent days preparing. He trained with the warriors, learning alien fighting styles and strategies. His human instincts and quick thinking helped him understand battle plans in new ways. The children cheered his efforts, calling him Warrior Dad. The night before the attack, Nate sat with Zelina in the Great Hall. She removed her helmet, revealing a tired but determined face. "You don't have to carry this alone," she said softly. "I don't want to," Nate replied, "but I will." They stood together as the fortress walls trembled from distant explosions. The enemy had begun their assault. The battle was fierce. Enemy ships fired from the sky. Warriors clashed on the ground with weapons that sang and glowed. Nate fought beside Zelina, their bond glowing between them like a shield. When one was tired, the other felt renewed strength. At one point, Zelina was trapped under fallen debris. Nate rushed to her side, lifting heavy stones with the power of the bond. He helped her stand, and they fought back to the heart of the fortress. The children watched from safe rooms, their eyes wide with fear and hope. As the battle raged, Nate saw an enemy leader advancing toward the children's quarters. Without hesitation, he charged, using magic and skill to block the attack. The enemy fell. The fortress was saved. When the dust settled, the soldiers cheered. Nate looked around, his heart full. Zelina approached, smiling for the first time in weeks. "You are more than bound. You are family." The children ran to Nate, hugging him tightly. One whispered, "Our dad is the strongest." Nate smiled, feeling a warmth he had never known. Later, as peace returned, Nate stood on the balcony with Zelina. The stars shone brightly. "This bond," Nate said, "it's more than magic. It's hope." She nodded. "And together, we protect it." Nate looked at the children playing below, their laughter echoing in the night. "I'm home."